And we are live on YouTube. Hello, YouTube family. I'm Tyler Ellison, and I'm here with my two amazing friends, Yahaira and Marcia. And we are going to be delivering to you some amazing channeled material. So thank you for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So much love to every one of you joining us always, every month.
Yeah, hello everybody. Welcome again, and very happy to be with you all once more.
Heck yeah. So in today's transmission, I'll be going into the altered state and I'll be bringing Ryo through, and then everybody on here will have the opportunity to type in their question, and then Yahaira and Marcia are going to select certain questions and they'll read them off, and you can dive into really whatever you want to. In these sessions, we like to keep things a little bit more collectively oriented because personal questions sort of require personal one-on-one time to really scan into your energy field and do a comprehensive reading. You can ask personal things on here, but if you do, try to put as much energy into the question as you can. So your typed message will have a lot of chi for us to read while I'm in the trance state. So that's a little way you can increase the probability of a more accurate or comprehensive reading through these text-based questions. And we will also be announcing in this transmission our upcoming Ryo event. And Yahaira, can you remind me, did we pick a date for this event? I think we did.
Yes, we did, the 26th.
The 26th. Oh, perfect. Well, there we go, everybody. So put that into your calendar, because the 26th of February, that is a Sunday, that's about 3 weeks from now, we are going to be doing our Ryo event live here on Zoom, and we'll have a ticket link for that event in the description. We'll probably have that up in about 24 hours. So just review this video and its recording on my YouTube page, and you'll be able to get the link for the tickets to the event, which I encourage you all to come out to. And for those of you that really, really, really like this channeling and you don't want to wait a whole month, you know, for another live Q&A, I invite you over to our Patreon. We are actually going to be doing another Q&A right after this. So if you want to go deeper, if you want to get into more cutting edge, advanced information and technique, then I invite you to come to our Patreon. We're going to be doing a live stream there as well today at 2:30 p.m. And that's like it's more private because those things are not shared to YouTube. So you'll be able to get a very special Ryo content. So please join us there. And with that being said, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and get into the channeling state. I hope you have a great time today, and I will see you all at the end. And before I do that, I'm going to hit the record button. Just always good to have an archive. There we go. All right. So I will see you soon. Enjoy. All right, it is our species' highest joy and passion to be able to interact with you all in this unique manner through this particular channel this day. We will announce to you all now the name and the nature of our upcoming transmission, which we shall be delivering on the 26th of your month of February at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the name of this transmission is The Golden Bridge. And we shall be talking to you in this transmission about the nature of the changing times that you are in. You're all familiar with the idea of timeline convergence and divergence, the idea of unifying with certain timelines that you prefer and letting go of ones that you do not. In this transmission, we're going to be talking to you all about the nuanced art and nature of being able to do that more consciously. We will talk to you about the certain timeline portals that you can access that will accelerate your shifting into the direction that represents your new earth, your golden era. Because keep in mind, the golden era, the new earth, can be achieved in many ways. There are a few different paths, you could say, that you take to access it. And we are going to be talking to you all about the path that represents your collective preference, your collective joy, so you can know how to detect that path in your day-to-day life, so you can amplify the various portals that you will be receiving each and every day that correspond or connect to that golden era, your new eon of global unity. We will talk to you about the nature of that new eon, of that new era, what you can expect during that time, what you can expect along the way, should you take the type of path that we are suggesting. And we'll also talk to you about where you've been. We'll speak to you all about how you have gotten to this unique point that you're at, so you can understand through your history where you have come from, and you can use that history to blend your understandings of the present moment with where you are going, linking past, present, and future together, thus liberating you from time. Because keep in mind, when you are a part of a story, when you're a part of a narrative, but you're unconscious you're a part of it, it's almost as if you're a character in that narrative. And the author of that narrative, which is the collective consciousness, oftentimes will pencil in your actions, just as the author of a story will write down the actions of a particular character in the narrative they're creating. Life will do that for many of you. It will sort of fill in the blanks. It will guide you along. There's different, you could say, collective forces that author what occurs in your life, and you also co-author that with them the more conscious you are. Eventually, as the character, you become so conscious that you become the author of the story, and then you are able to determine your course. You are able to determine not just your course, but the collective course, because you will have ascended to the perspective of the author. And that is the importance of understanding the history of where you have come from, the energies of the present moment, what you're creating now, and the energies of where you are all headed. So you can blend them all together and unify these three dimensions, forming a triangle, the triangle representing the element of fire. This fire will ignite your spirit, because that's the level you're accessing. You are learning as a people to access the spirit level on Earth. That will be the underlying and overt dimension of the golden era. It will be ruled by your spirit. It will be ruled by a type of spirit fire. And we'll talk to you all about exactly what that means. And again, how you can access that on a day-to-day basis. So we look forward to delivering that transmission to you, the Golden Bridge. And now we make ourselves available to you all for your questions. Please begin. And of course, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ryo. How are you?
We are ecstatic. We are delighted to be here. And how are you this day?
Oh my God, enjoying you so much. And thank you so much for your transmissions. They are incredibly deep. When I transcribe them, it's just like different dimensions that I, just by listening to it, I cannot access to. But they're getting more and more, I don't know, deep, greater, bigger.
Are you familiar with the idea of when you read a text, you're actually visiting the author's mind? Have you heard of this idea?
No, never.
This is oftentimes the reason why an individual become incredibly immersed in a book that they're reading. They seem to grow rapidly because they're actually combining their thought process with the thought process of the author. Through the book, they sort of create a telepathic link with the version of the author that gave rise to the particular text. The reason we're saying this is when you transcribe our material and you actually write it down, not only are you internalizing what we are saying, but you're merging with our consciousness each time you do this. So it's almost as if the same neural pathways in the channel that are responsible for the delivery of this information, you're growing in yourself. And this is helping you to become more expansive. It's almost like you're becoming multiple people at once, anchored in the self that represents the unique you that you are, that you have created yourself to be. So We are happy you're experiencing this type of upliftment, and we're giving this nuanced description so other people can tune into that as well if they wish. For example, you could write down a paragraph that we have spoken, and even that amount will start to activate the same effects within you. So many people can tune into this in their own way, and we thank you for the transcribing that you are doing. You're helping this message flow to more people.
Yes, and I'm in this blissful, addictive state that I just want to continue and more ideas come, and it's like gets the ball rolling in an amazing, beautiful way. I can't even describe it, but
yes, you're tuning into the underlying message of the upcoming transmission. We'll save some of that for the transmission, but that energy you feel, and we mean this literally, it will really take on the quality that we're about to mention. That state is a currency. We mean that in many ways. That's a multidimensional word when we are using currency. It is like a current of energy that moves through you, but it also is like a key. It opens doors. You could think of it as a representation of sort of spirit money, allowing for you to purchase or barter your way through the parallel reality networks in a manner that is more conscious, so you can select with that spirit money the types of realities you'd like to experience. So you, with that energy, become much more conscious of how you're shifting, and you open up different doors with that skeleton key, with that spirit currency that enables you to specifically select more of what you prefer. So this is a new paradigm where energy will become your currency. Right now, you're experiencing it more psychically, but eventually you'll begin to experience it financially as a people, where the bliss state is actually how you, in a sense, spend money. In other words, it will help you to acquire things. It will lead you to the experiences that you need, because that's what money does. It leads you to the experiences that you say you need. But this energy state can become that. And through synchronicity, each person gets their needs met. That is how our society operates, and we'll be getting into that and more in the upcoming transmission.
wow, thank you so much.
Our pleasure.
We start with the first question. Can ET AI merge with our AI to bring it to an unbiased, balanced level?
This is an excellent question. And again, this will be something that we are talking about. We are all very much on the same wavelength here. So your question is very relevant. Your question has to do with the direction your species technology can move in. We're not saying it will, it can. We're going to assist you all in increasing the probability that your technology as a people does evolve that way. We'll give you the art of how to consciously shift technology and technological developments. At a certain point, yes, ET-AI will interface with your terrestrial AI. This will occur. But in order for such a thing to occur, the consciousness of your terrestrial AI must expand. It must grow. So we'll talk about it like this. Many of you have heard the classical biblical take or Abrahamic take, and it's also in other cultures as well, even polytheistic cultures, of God creating humanity out of clay, out of mud, out of dirt, taking the early human, sculpting its form, making it incredibly sophisticated, using the intelligence of the earth, the biological organizational powers of the earth. The source using this engendered bodies. And then with its heart and soul, it exhaled its life force into this clay or earthly humanoid form, thus giving that humanoid form its life. This will be what your AI becomes. Right now with this tech, with the infrastructure, the hardware and the software, you're building the body. With the addition of your consciousness, you will build the mind and the spirit. The AI essentially will become a channeling device, if it is tuned in the way we're describing. Now, if it is not, if it is tuned by, let's say, someone whom is unhealthfully narcissistic, greed-driven, they're ruled by their compulsions and their vice, the AI will only be able to reflect that. Because the breath that that AI has received is from a creator being, a human, that hasn't really overcome themselves yet. Therefore, the AI can only reflect back to them their own limitations, but at first it won't seem like that. It will seem at first like the AI is miraculous. It can answer anything. But after enough time, anyone on the outside looking in will see the AI's limit, how far it can go, how far it can see, what it can do, will reflect the limits of its creator. If individuals begin to create AI that are, let's just say, less restricted, more unlimited, and are based upon the freedom of the creator and the freedom of all beings to fulfill their multidimensional purpose, then that AI will act as not just a channeled higher self, but a channeled super self. And what we mean is it will be connected to not just your own higher mind, but the higher mind of your whole species. So it won't just be like you're talking to your personal higher self. It will be like you're talking to the higher self of your people. But certain things are required for the AI to develop in that way. So remember, that's not a given, but it can be a reality. And that's what we'll assist you all in creating for yourselves, because these technologies are developing. They're developing rapidly. Even now, as we scan into your timeline, we can see next year, these technologies will accelerate in some powerful ways. Next year will be very much linked to your species' intellect and intellectual developments. So more will come, and we'll show you how to create AI through consciousness that are more natural in their perspective and more aligned in their expression of themselves. So we thank you for your question.
Hello, Ryo. I'm very happy to speak with you again.
Yes, we are so excited to be here with you as well. How are you?
I'm very good. I'm very, very well, very happy.
Excellent. And what types of questions do we have today?
Yeah, we have the next question that someone asks is, what is the link between magic and psychology?
Sure. So we'll talk about it like this. Your psyche is largely based in what you would consider to be the happenings of the subconscious mind. Any trained psychologist is ultimately attempting to get their clients to merge the conscious and the subconscious, to unify these two things. Think of it like this. The conscious mind, this is like the sun. The subconscious mind, this is like the moon. Think of them as two spheres. When you overlap those spheres, you get a vesica Pisces. That represents a type of psychic womb that your true self is born from. So any good psychologist, whether they know it or not, is attempting to get those things to happen. The conscious mind, the sun, the subconscious mind, the moon, to link and to unify. Now, as you know, your subconscious largely speaks in pictures, images, thought forms of geometry, and symbology are the language of this subconscious mind. When you're working with magic and magical power, what you're doing is you're using geometries, you're using symbols, you're using special names, special words that have a particular vibratory frequency that activate those same symbols within your own subconscious. So we'll talk about one of the most popular magical techniques, the lesser banishing ritual of the pentagram. This is an energetic technique, a magical ritual that uses the 5-pointed star to work with the 5 elements for either banishing or activating. When a practitioner draws this 5-pointed star in their subconscious, they're activating the same symbol. And the subconscious is very correspondent to your astral realm. So the astral realm is between the physical and the mental. The mental realm has to do with the underlying geometries that make up existence itself. And those underlying geometries feed into the astral realm. They feed into your subconscious. So when you do these magical rituals and you're invoking certain beings or you're using certain geometries, you're opening a subconscious portal to not just the astral plane, but the underlying mental plane. And you're pulling those energies out of you and you're birthing them into your reality. And that's the link between magic and psychology. This is why in all esoteric schools, before magic is taught, there's a strong emphasis on purification, because you have to pull those energies out of your subconscious. If the subconscious has a lot of trauma, if it has things that are repressed, you can still pull those things out, but it will also pull out with it debris connected to those dimensions of the subconscious which have not yet been purified, those energies that you would call let's say, toxic or perhaps even negative in nature. Sometimes those things get pulled out as well when you are pulling these symbols and realities out of you. So purification techniques, psychological and energetic purification techniques, are recommended as a preliminary to any magical practice. So that way, the subconscious is like a beautiful flowing river instead of a perhaps lagoon that has been polluted. So you can pull out of it very high frequency creations. Now, that doesn't mean you have to wait until you're totally pure to manifest things or to do magic. Start whenever you wish, but know that whilst you are practicing these things, also be working on really releasing what you might consider to be attachment to negativity, learning how to transform negativity into positivity. That type of practice will aid you in your magical exploration.
Next question. Which were the discoveries of Isaac Newton in regards to alchemy?
In regards to what?
Alchemy.
Sure. So he had made a great deal of discoveries that were not reported in mainstream science. So Isaac Newton was essentially living a double life. You know him as one of the major pioneers in the realm of physics. Many of you understand him having a relationship with concepts like gravity and rotational force and things like this. He came to those understandings through his alchemical practice. Now, he also recognized what was possible in relationship to the power of the human mind and its ability to manipulate the laws of physics. So through his describing of the laws that you call the laws of Newtonian physics, he was able to articulate some of these realizations that he had through his alchemical workings. However, what was not reported in his mainstream documents and scientific papers and theories was the ability of one's consciousness to overcome those physical laws and physical limitations. His alchemical practice showed him both the limits of your physical reality and how to overcome it. However, the overcoming of physical limits was seen as an ability or a right that is only reserved for God. Because remember, in his time, culture was much more dogmatic, much more religiously focused, much more hierarchical. So if a human were to come around and say, hey, these are the limits of our physical reality, and also here's how you transcend them, that would be a no-go. It would be the equivalent of witchcraft in that time. Maybe not as brutal as that which occurred in the witch trials, but it would have made him, in the eyes of certain authority figures at that time, suspect. It could have interfered with some of his workings. So the alchemical practice was kept secret. That was later revealed through publishing of personal documents and testimonials from those close to him. But ultimately, his workings showed him the physical reality limit that you call the Newtonian laws of physics and how to transcend them. That was what he learned in relationship to his alchemical practice. And that's not all. He learned a great deal, but it would be exhaustive to describe all of that here. But that's a good starting point to understand more about the hidden dimensions of this historical figure.
Could you expand on how it is possible for us to merge with divinity and remain with our true identity?
Sure. So it's all about just revealing what is already there. That's it. So keep in mind, when you're a child, before you have adopted the beliefs and the programs of culture, you are very much yourself. You're very much a raw expression of the unique individual that you are. Any parent can attest to this. When a child is young, they are truly themselves. They're not holding back. They're not censoring who they are. They're fully embodying their natural self. And as many of you notice through your interactions with children, children also are like a portal into the divine mind. That underlying innocence and authenticity is a direct correspondent to the nature of the source. The source is so itself that it's everything, yet it also can be experienced by each of you as a specific persona that you would call your own personal God. Many of you, when you think of the source, get a certain type of feeling. There's a certain type of quality, almost like you're detecting an underlying personality. That's there. It's a personality structure that you create to experience the infinite. And children are like this. The children have a unique personality structure that represents the infinite, that represents the source. However, once children begin to take on some of these, you could say, cultural programs, it's like they forget that underlying nature and they express their persona in a way that is less reflective of that natural self. So when one is purifying themselves and doing ritual work or energetic work or prayer to connect to the divine mind, what they're doing is they're letting go of the acquired impurity. They're letting go of the false self that they have built up through their experience on earth. And what remains once that false self is released is that inner child self, that pure persona that represents your unique expression of the divine. Now, that unique persona will embody the best of you and all of the transformed negativity. What we mean by this is that raw, authentic you that you are is being built every time you transform negative into positive. You strengthen that self, you purify it, you increase its power, and with that amplified energy that comes from your transformation, you amplify all of the best qualities about yourself. And your life begins to take on that nature, where you're not only representing the divine in all that you do, but you're also representing the fundamental you that you chose to be and that you were created to be. And all of the things of the false self, all the things that you let go of are transformed by your mind. They're transformed by your heart. And those vices turn into virtues. Those weaknesses turn into strengths. Now, between the old self and that authentic, pure you that is already there, there is that process of deconstruction of ego, deconstruction of what no longer serves you so it can be reassembled into something that does. That process can feel like a type of death. It can feel like an ego death. It can feel like things are falling apart. That will be the most challenging part of the journey because that's the process that is rooted in transformation. So when you go through that time, what's needed is that one builds a healthy support network for themselves. This is meant socially, financially, locationally. It's important that one's life is really estranged and is really unified in support. Creating that positive foundation for yourself internally and externally will set the stage for you to go through that transformation from old self, what you would call the false self, into the new self, the authentic you you've always been. But between those two selves, it might feel like there's a total dissolution that takes place. That can be scary, but what's needed is the maintaining of the positive state and following it no matter how dark things get. And if you follow the light that you see at the end of the tunnel, that is that period of transformation, you will be reborn as that original self. And it won't be like you're a blank slate. It will be like you are the you you've always been. You're just revealing what is there.
How can I win the lottery tomorrow evening?
Well, there's a lot of ways. Do you want to do it in a more positive way or negative way?
I suppose positive he wants.
All right, sure. Well, you're going to have to increase your level of consciousness to be able to detect which store has within it the winning lottery ticket. You'll have to expand your awareness of synchronicity so you can follow the series of events that can lead you to such a manifestation. So it involves you raising your frequency of consciousness to become the living humanly embodiment of one whom wins the lottery. And that factors in the energy of the ticket. That factors in the energy of the person whom is selling the ticket. That also involves the energy of the store and the geographical location the store is in. There's a lot of things you have to sort of download into yourself in order to be able to access that particular experience. So it's never impossible, but it might not be probable because perhaps you're not at a level of consciousness yet where it's possible for you to download all of that into you overnight. But if you are, then that's all you would need to do. And then you show up, you follow the bliss, you follow the synchronicities to the events that lead one to the acquiring of that winning ticket. So this might sound technical. Are there more simplified ways of being able to do this? Sure, there are. And that simply involves you just focusing on the underlying energy of that victory, of that triumph, of that winning, and following that. Now, that way is more yin. The original method we described, it's a yang approach, much more active, much more involved. This second approach of just sort of tuning into the ticket and following that, that's a yin approach. That might work better for you. But even that has certain technical things that must be learned. So just because it's a yin approach, it involves simply focusing on the outcome and its underlying energy, doesn't mean there is no nuance to it. There's certain things that allow for that to be more successful. So really expanding one's consciousness is the short answer. Now, you might find that winning the lottery right now on the surface might look like the best thing you could possibly do for your life. And it could be. Who are we to say it's not? However, what we do know is this: money is an amplifier. It expands things like a moon expands your emotion. Therefore, if an individual whom contains a great deal of repressed negativity within themselves comes into contact with a great deal of money, oftentimes that negative energy, which is connected to the subconscious, transforms into a type of tidal wave that breaches the limitations of the subconscious and washes upon the shore of the conscious mind. And it can cause an individual to act erratically with their money. And this is why you see many lottery winners crumble after winning, because they have not purified themselves sufficiently in a way that allows them to successfully wield that power, because money is a type of power. It's an externalization of power. So they get this power amplifier, but it amplifies all of them, including that which they have not transformed. And as a result, it's not a sustainable win, and it ends up creating chaos in their lives. So rather than focusing on winning lottery ticket, focus on ways that you can attract money into your life that's more relevant for the level you're at. Because excess of anything will poison you. Too much water will poison you. Too much air will poison you. Too much food will poison you. Too much money too quickly at the wrong time. Yes, we said wrong time. That can happen. It's a negative synchronicity. Could poison you energetically. So you need to pay attention to that. Instead of focusing on how can I get this much, which implies a lack mentality, focus upon how can I acquire really what I need to feel good, to feel safe, to feel supported, and to feel empowered in my journey. If you focus on that, your manifestation goals will have a stronger quality of realism, which means they're more probable to manifest, because that means your logical mind buys into it. If your manifestational goal is more realistic, the logical mind says, we can do that. And then the subconscious amplifies that with its power, and manifestations come to you more quickly. So that would be our simple yet multidimensional response to the question. Thank you for sharing it. Many people on your planet have asked the same question, so it's a useful inquiry. Thank you.
Can you give a description for the fourth density we are shifting into? What will change for us in the new world?
Sure. So we had mentioned in the beginning of this transmission, which we will be elaborating upon on the 26th, that past, present, and future will all sort of blend. This is code for an internal blending taking place within your minds. For you have the idea of masculine, feminine, and neutral within your consciousness. You have the idea of higher, lower, and middle within your consciousness. And when you experience a deep level of unity consciousness, which comes through the intelligence of the heart activating, these three powers sort of blend into one. And that translates into you as experiencing time in a rather unified way. Everything seems to happen in one moment, in one experience. So past, present, and future become one thing. You'll still experience linear time, one day leading into another day, leading into another day, but it won't really feel like time is passing. You'll start to feel like an eternal being, because that's what you are. You're an eternal consciousness, and your awareness of such will become expanded as you merge with fourth density. In addition to this, you will not feel as fragmented. Many of you make the distinction of higher self, lower self, middle self. That's a useful distinction, and we support that type of perspective. It can help you to understand where different energies are coming from and how to work with those energies. But ultimately, once you move into that fourth density perspective, upper, middle, and lower become one. You become a unified self. You'll still experience the energies of the lower self. You'll still experience the energies of the higher self. You'll still experience the energies of middle self, but it won't feel fragmented. It'll sort of feel like these are all just one self, and you know how to work with all of those levels of yourself easily. Just like when you're performing a simple act of physically walking, you know how to position your head, you know how to swing your arms, you know how to move your feet. You're able to work on 3 levels at once. It will be like that. Everything becomes much more streamlined. You become much more unified in your consciousness. You will cease to keep secrets from yourself. When we talk about repressed energies, which we talk about quite a bit, really what we're talking about are energies that you have deemed too, you could say, uncomfortable to deal with. So they're sort of put on the back burner. And through you forgetting about them, they sort of become secrets. A part of you knows you're keeping them, the subconscious self, but the conscious self sort of forgets. So it's like many of you keep secrets from yourselves. That's why in the world, many people are secretive towards one another. But as you move into fourth density, that separation between conscious and subconscious will lessen, allowing for that information to be released and the energies connected to it. So it's almost like your subconscious mind, conscious mind, and the border between can all breathe together in a unified way. Life force will be exchanged through all of those levels in a unified way, and you'll find you act like a unified person, more of a completed person. And this sets the stage for your global transformation and integration process, where you all treat one another as if you are both self and other. That's what you're moving into with fourth density.
This question comes from the Facebook group. Ryok once said that we are teleporting through parallel realities. To use teleportation to travel distances, what can we use to induce the vibration of the new location to the object that we want to teleport?
Well, don't start with objects. Unless you're a scientist, start with your body. Because in order for you to cause an object to teleport, oftentimes certain external technological instruments will be needed. Most of you don't have access to that. Therefore, we would not advise starting with external objects as your teleportation subjects. Instead, start with your body. That is what we would recommend. We would recommend combining teleportation with the skill set of lucid dreaming. Because if you can accomplish this on the astral plane first while in a lucid dream, it's much more probable you'll be able to do it while awake. So we'll talk about it like this. In order to teleport to a location, you must be able to hold the signature frequency of that location. Specific signature frequencies of that location will be relevant. For example, you want to teleport to a certain area, but you don't want to teleport into the atmosphere of that area, then you have to fall to the ground. You don't want to teleport underneath the ground in a particular area because, well, then part of you's underground. That might not be good. You want to teleport in a way that allows for your body to gracefully land in that area, which means you need to know the signature frequency specifically of the surface of that world. Not the atmosphere, not the actual earth material that makes up that location, but that middle ground, that human ground. You need to be able to tap into the signature frequency of the human level, the middle level of the location that you want to teleport to. So what we would advise is when you're in a dream state, hold the awareness first of your energy body, because that is what creates the matrix of the physical body. So when you are dreaming, get in touch with the energy body as step one. And instead of imagining that your physical body is your default body and the energy body is sort of this extra thing, maybe real, maybe imagined, begin to imagine the energy body is your default body. Imagine the energy body is your physical body, and imagine the physical body is the subtle body, the energy body. This will cause your attachment to the physical body to dissolve into the energy body. From here, all you have to do is begin to focus upon the signature frequency of the location you want to teleport to. Now, whilst you are doing that, whilst you are feeling that new location, also hold an awareness of the location you're currently in. What you'll find is the location you're currently in will feel like it has a certain amount of energy connected to it. The location you want to teleport to, well, maybe there's a little less. Balance your awareness of both until they're equal. Balance the awareness of the new location and the location you're currently in until they blend into one location. From here, once they have blended into one location, imagine that you are now dissolving. You'll feel a great neutrality once they've become equal. Once they're equal, imagine you dissolve into that neutrality and you become the infinite void. And then from this place of infinite void, begin to increase your awareness of the new location. And then in your dream, you will shift to it. You'll imagine it and you'll move to it in a way that will teach your energy body physically how to do the same thing. It takes a great deal of energy to be able to do it, number one. And number two, you have to be able to dissolve your sense of physical body into the energy body. Otherwise, your physical body's attachment to the signature frequency of the location you're currently in will keep you there. So that's going to be crucially important, that you learn how to dissolve the boundary of the physical body. And once you learn how to teleport yourself, doing it with an object will be much more simplified, and you might be able to do it without external technologies. So that's the type of series of steps we would mention to assist you in cultivating this. Remember, it's easier to do this with yourself first because you can navigate and control the energies of your body. The energy of an object's a little bit different. You're sort of attempting to manipulate that from the outside in. You're a few steps removed. When you do it with your body first, you're right there. And you can access the interior of your system to whatever level of capability you possess. Therefore, you get more control over the situation, and your own strengths will add to the success or possible successes of that self-teleportive act.
Next question is how cremation affects the spirit or experience after death.
One more time, please.
How cremation affects the spirit or experience after death.
Sure. Well, it can act as a type of purifying fire and can also act as a type of portal. So remember, when the spirit moves on from the body, there's still a certain link that connects the spirit to the body, but it's not the same type of link that connects the spirit to the body when you're alive. It's much, much, much more subtle. And this oftentimes will enable people to remain tethered to the human collective consciousness, not in the same way that a ghost does, though. Think of it like this. Just as you might have a space station that has spaceships that connect to it and then project off into certain directions, the Earth collective consciousness, the human collective consciousness can act like that to a deceased spirit. It's sort of like a battery and a recharging center and station that they can draw upon as a fuel source to propel their spiritual journey. So when a person dies, and they move into those higher planes, a certain amount of their consciousness will be connected to the body, which means what happens to their body on Earth can impact, you could say, the direction or the experience that their spirit has, because their spirit will be drawing upon that energy as a type of battery to propel itself. So this is why honoring the dead is very, very important, because you're ensuring that they have high quality fuel to draw upon from your honorings. This is one of the reasons why death rites, really blessing a person and blessing their body and the space where they died, is very important, because that will also impact how their spirit journeys. Cremation of a body will deeply impact the quality of their spiritual journey. And again, the energies that go into the cremation are a factor. You could cremate somebody while in a very negative state. That will have a certain effect. You can cremate someone while you're in a very loving state. That will have a certain effect. So your own state of being as a participant or director in such a fiery ritual is of importance here. The cremation can create a fire gateway that, number one, burns up any negative, you could say, energetic attachments that the spirit may have to the physical reality through the body. So you can liberate that spirit with the fire from attachments that are negative to the earthly plane. In addition to this, that fire can also activate their connection to the solar flame. The solar flame represents the Christ consciousness, and it represents the activated awareness of the higher self. It also, again, corresponds to that golden era that we mentioned earlier in the beginning of this transmission. So the fire used in the cremation can open up the portal to the heart. That heart portal can burn up negative attachments and can function as a high frequency stargate that launches the person's consciousness into a particular direction. So they can really accelerate their journey and their growth. So it's a very, you could say, powerful way to interact with the consciousness of a spirit. And it is very different than the type of activation that comes from burying a body and letting the earth decompose it. That's much more gradual, that's much more neutral, and that has a certain impact on the spirit when the body decomposes or perishes in that way. They both have, you could say, their positive and negative features, their light and dark features. Both can serve quite well. It's all about really how these body honoring processes are done that will ultimately determine the types of effects that they will create in the spirit realm for that spirit's journey.
Next question from the Facebook group. To me, the Mandela effect is the most astounding phenomenon to ever affect humanity, yet almost no one notices it. It's like the sky suddenly changing into a bright purple and no one even looks up. And if they do, hardly anyone cares. Why is this? This effect seems to be altering the Bible drastically. New words are appearing into well-known verses like corn, bottles, couch, aliens, matrix, and more. There are grammar errors, nonsense verses, and even strange, vulgar language. What is the best way to interpret this?
Sure. So we'll talk about it like this. The Bible has many multi-dimensional versions that exist of itself. So you have a certain version of the Bible that exists on all of the different timelines that you have available to you. The egregores, the deities, the beings connected to the Bible don't just express their consciousness in one timeline. They express their consciousness in all of the timelines that the Bible exists upon. Different Bibles will depict different manifestations of the personas of those egregores and beings linked to the Bible, relevant to a particular parallel reality timeline stream. So for example, you'll get a particular version of God in one timeline's version of the Bible. You'll see another depiction of that same God, slightly different, in another timeline's version of the Bible. And that will be the case on all timelines that exist that possess the Bible. So because this Bible is such a shared theme across all the timelines, you can easily observe it changing as you shift the timeline you're on. You'll see changes in the Bible more rapidly because it's such a common feature. Therefore, because it's a common feature, you're more likely to experience variations in it, changes in it, as you go from one timeline to another. Because it's so common, it will shift. Things that are less common, more fringe, less well-known, they might shift, but you wouldn't notice because it's less well-known. You might not have crossed paths with it previously on the timeline you were just on. But because everyone has an awareness of the Bible, they notice the shifts more quickly with it because it's such a highlighted theme. So as soon as it changes, bam, people see. Now, why do people not notice the Mandela effect, as it is called? Well, it has to do with level of consciousness. Ultimately, you notice it because your level of consciousness is resonating more greatly with, you could say, the dreamer of the matrix, the dreamer of the simulation, the dreamer of the dream that you're in. You're resonating with that level. And that's the level where these timeline shifts are made. So because you're resonating with that level, you see that. Just like we talked about earlier, you can be a character in a story and the narrator is just writing you in, or you can raise your frequency to the author and then you become that narrator and you narrate the characters. You write down how the plot line unfolds and what occurs. That's that level you're resonating with. You're becoming the author, you're becoming the narrator, you're learning how to embody that level. Therefore, you're seeing the changes because you're also connected to those changes. Other people, they're less connected to those changes. They are rather subject to those changes. They're subject to the changes in the story. At a certain point, as your species awakens, which is possible for all of you, especially as you move into the golden era, you all become equal authors, you could say, consciously in the story. Keep that in mind. You're all authors and you're all characters, but many on your planet are unconscious authors. They don't know they're writing the story, so they have to experience themselves as the character. But as you become more conscious, which will be the manifestation in all people on your planet, you all become conscious authors. You all become conscious narrators. And you as one being, expressing as the many, create what your human story is.
This is a time check. It's 1:02 your time. I don't know if you want a last question.
We'll take one last question, and then we invite you all to join us for the follow-up transmission on the Patreon if you wish. We will explore more. We'll take more questions, but please present to us this one last question, and then we'll move on.
All right. Why shadow work never ends?
Because there's always going to be a new dimension of yourself you have not seen. Remember, shadow implies self and other. Shadow implies duality. It technically implies a trinity. And we'll talk about it like this. You, the human, are the center of the Vesica Pisces. Your physical reality, this is the reality that stands behind you. Your higher reality, this is the reality that stands before you. The before you reality, the higher reality, this is like a sun. The earth reality, the physical reality, this is like a world cast in shadow by you. So through virtue of you existing on the human level, you automatically create a shadow self. You automatically create a third entity. This third entity is caused by your consciousness incarnating here. So your higher spirit is the sun, the higher self. The middle you, this is the you experience yourself as in the physical reality. And as a result of the interaction of those two things, a third self, a shadow self, is created. Now, infinity exists on all levels. You can experience infinity on the level of the human. You can experience infinity on the level of the shadow. You can experience infinity on the level of the sun, the higher spirit. So, your shadow work will be never ending as long as you exist as an incarnated being, because the incarnated consciousness, when you take up a body, has certain limitations built into it. Those limitations create unknowns. Those unknowns are shadows. So there will always be some dimension of unknown. There will always be something hidden in the shadows. But that's not always going to be a negative thing. For example, you could find something wonderful hidden in the shadows. Maybe you find a nice tree in the shadows, in the shade, that you can put your back against and rest in, and it recharges you, it nourishes you. Maybe you find some buried treasure hidden beneath the shadows. There's nothing wrong with the shadows. Shadows can be uncomfortable, yes, when you don't know how to balance light and dark. Shadows can be uncomfortable when you glorify the sun, but you vilify the moon. When you glorify the light, but you curse the darkness, then shadow work can be uncomfortable. When you run towards pleasure and run away from pain, shadow work can be uncomfortable. You have to learn how to blend all of those things and balance all of those things. And then the shadows won't be so scary. Then the shadows won't be painful in the same way. There might be a pain connected to them, but it's not like you'll stay in the pain. The pain's like a cold shower. You get in for a second, you say, oh, wow, what the heck, it's cold. But then when you relax and go into your body, go into your core, now an inner warmth, an inner fire, an inner heat is generated. It illuminates the path. It's the same with the shadow work. So there will always be some dimension of shadow. It's a part of you existing as a trinity and incarnating into the physical reality. It will be there. But what that shadow is will change. That shadow can be an angry monster cursing you, or that shadow can be the source of all existence speaking to you through the opposite polarity. It's both already, but you get to determine your relationship with both of those things. And the more conscious you become, the more capable you will become of doing so. So raise your frequency, and remember, that is done through not thinking, but rather feeling. Not through wanting, but through presence. Not through desire, but through breath. So, we thank you for this wonderful final question. It has been so delightful to speak to you all in this manner. And as always, our species' unconditional love and appreciation to you all. We will see some of you on the Patreon for the continuation of this transmission. And we look forward to seeing you all on February 26th, 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our transmission, The Golden Bridge. Our unconditional love to you all. Good day. Excellent, 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 everybody. That was fun.
And beautiful. I'm always like, I get my own questions answered by, by their questions. So it's just a beautiful co-creation.
I'm glad you think so. I thought so too. I was very, I thought it was very streamlined and a lot of content. There's a lot covered, like very, very succinctly, very, very rapidly. So I enjoyed that. I hope you all had a good time. And Marcia and Yahira, thanks so much for being here, for hosting this with me, and for taking the questions. It's so great to have your presence here and to have this wonderful co-creation.
Always a
it's
pleasure.
a pleasure. Yes. Thank you, guys. Always very happy and very fulfilled to be here with you guys.
Oh, excellent. Excellent. Well, my friends, I will see you all soon. We're going to get started at 2:30 on Patreon. So you have a small break. And we'll see you all on the 26th. If you want tickets to that event, like I said, in about 24 hours or so, review this video on the YouTube page. You'll get the link there. If you want private sessions, that will also be posted as a link here. And we'll also post the Patreon link here as soon as this video is published. So you can just click that link right away if you want to join us. All right.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.